This is Energy of Business Moments with Michael Sipe, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their business success into your life and business. Energy of Business Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Michael Sipe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Energy of Business Moments podcast. I am Michael Sipe, your host, and today I've got with me Kirk Kinder of Picket Fence Financial. Kirk is a registered investment advisor and owns his own firm. And so today we'd like to talk a little bit about investing and what kind of energy one might have in investing. So, Kirk, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Really appreciate it. Real quick rundown. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. So you can always, if you're from Michigan, you can show people where you're from and how to get to other places and everything like that. So after, growing up after high school, went to the Coast Guard Academy. So, a lot of people know West Point and Annapolis Air Force Academy, but we're the fourth academy. We're much smaller because the Coast Guard's a very small organization relative to the Army and Navy. But you do 4 years there, you get your degree. And my degree was actually in history and government. I had nothing to do with finance. In fact, I didn't even care about finances. Had no real interest in it. Nothing about financial planning or investing or anything. And what happened was, right before you become a senior at the academy arranges for a car loan. You can't have a car at the academy until you're a senior. So, I had a car I bought from my aunt. It was a beautiful 65 Buick Skylark convertible, and she never drove it. And, I bought it from her after mowing yards and delivering papers and things like that. So I had a car, but I took the money anyway because it was like 1.2% interest rate, which in the early 90s, car loans were 8 or 9%. So, you could have taken that money, put it in a checking account and made money. So I was like, I'm going to take this money. So took the loan, and I didn't know what to do with it, and turned to my dad. He didn't know. He was a high school teacher. He was just working for a pension. But he had a friend of his who was a teacher at one time, left, became a broker. So introduced me to this guy, and, family friend, still is a family friend, but, he was a broker. So he ended up selling me some life insurance products and an annuity product. Life insurance product, it wouldn't even cover in time of war. Not that you would think Coast Guard in wartime, but, we do become part of the Navy if there's a war. So I got sold some different products. And the only thing I did know about money, my grandfather taught me, you'll never spend more than you make and save at least 10% of your pay. So I was committed to doing that. And I figured if I'm doing that, everything's going to work out fine. So graduated the academy. I got stationed in Hawaii. I just kept sending this guy money every single month back to Michigan to put into the investments he developed for me. Kept doing that. We started getting in the later 90s when the tech returns, tech stocks were doing fantastic, and started to wonder, what have I made of my money? I would just get my statements and just file them away, and hey, I'm saving, I'm doing what I need to do. It's all going to work out. Pulled out the old statements, sharpened up the pencil, got the calculator out, figured out I'd paid as much in commissions as I had made on my account. So, at that point, I'm like, well, whose retirement am I saving for here, his or mine? So that sort of opened up Pandora's box, even though I didn't have any kind of real interest in investing in financial planning. While I was still active duty, I just started consuming everything I could on finances, and actually did the certified financial planner designation criteria, the education part of it, while I was still active duty. And then once I got off of active duty, I went to work for a company. I was in DC my last tour, and there was a company in Alexandria, Virginia called the Motley Fool. I don't know if you ever heard of the Motley Fool, but
sure have.
I got to know the brothers that founded it and some of the folks there, and they actually sponsored me to do a bike ride across America, which was kind of what I did as sort of getting out of the Coast Guard, took that time and rode across America. And I would call into their radio show. They had a radio show at the time. I'd call in from Missoula, Montana, and, you know, places Pierre, South Dakota, all this stuff, just to talk to them. But I worked there for a couple of years, and at the time, the Motley Fool was just purely educational. They were prohibited by the SEC of giving any kind of individual advice. And my job, one of my jobs, was to be in charge of customer service. So we would have people that would write us, and typically we could send them some articles on different financial topics, and here you go, here's some information you might like. But, you know, people are like, look, I don't have time for this. Could you just tell me what to do? And we couldn't do it. And we'd see it all the time. And I just knew that these folks are probably going to walk off and go talk to a broker, just like I had. So at that point, I left the Motley Fool and looked to work at a firm. And I wanted to be a fee-only financial planning firm, no commissions, anything like that, and happened to latch on with a firm down in Florida. So we moved from the DC area down to Florida for about 4 years. Worked there. My wife's from the Baltimore area. So after about 4 years of the heat, and we were there that year in 2005, and they had, you know, 7 or 8 hurricanes in a 2-month period. She's like, let's get out of here. And I've had enough. So in 2006, we moved back up to this area, up to the Baltimore area. And I started my own firm at that point. I just figured I didn't want to go work for another firm because, you know, I kind of had that entrepreneurial bug. I wanted to have my own firm at some point. So I didn't really think, I'm not going to go work for a firm and then start my own. There's always complications with that. So I just started my own firm at that point. So, and then, you know, Picket Fence it's again, a fee only financial planning firm, no commissions, anything like that. It's a very unique way to practice. There's not a lot of firms in the United States that do that. Most firms get some form of compensation from commissions. We get nothing from it. So it's a very unique way to practice. And we have to act as a fiduciary for our clients. So we have to put their interests first. So it's a very unique way to practice, but, you know, there's good things and bad things when you're unique. So.
Yeah, great story, and very interesting from the perspective of, you know, you did what you were told to do from an investment perspective. You took some of your money from that starter loan and invested it, and then you found out, well, I'm not making a great return. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Right? And so that kind of launched you into this other sort of taking it on myself kind of role, which a lot of entrepreneurs do. So what would you say, since there are other registered investment advisors out there, and obviously the brokers too, that makes your investment strategy unique?
Well, I think, it's the way we practice at first. So that's a very unique way. And we're not just asset managers. I'll do hourly consulting for clients as well. So if people just have a modular issue or something popping up, or they just want to make sure they're okay for retirement, I can do that just strictly on an hourly basis. The other, I guess if you're going to get into investment strategies, what works is I've always kind of believed, you got to have a good methodology, follow the methodology, keep the emotions out, which right now with what we're going through, there's a lot of emotions out there. But then I also have a process to try to protect on the downside. So, I've always used, different moving averages and investor sentiment, stuff like that to start to liquidate equity positions and go to short-term bonds, cash, safe things. So yeah, we've been phasing out here pretty much this whole year. So while everything's ugly, we've been able to kind of navigate it pretty well. And it worked back in 2008 as well. So, when things kick back up, you typically get invested but just got to make sure you have something there to sort of protect on the downside.
Yeah. Well, that's great. For a lot of people who are worried about their investments, they may not sleep at night. So it sounds like with your strategy and your way of doing it, that you're sleeping well at night. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think too, in running a business, getting up and getting started with Picket Fence, sometimes we have some really big challenges, and we might actually have a low moment where we're pretty, depressed, or we're just not having a lot of energy about moving forward. So could you share with us and our listeners a little bit about when you might have had something like that in getting your business going?
Yeah, really, it did start right from the beginning. As I mentioned, we moved up here, and I just started my firm. And financial planning is a very relationship business. Most planners who do well have got various relationships in the community that feed them leads and clients. I came up and I didn't know anybody outside my wife's family and a few of her friends. And so it really was a slog getting going and getting to the point, because, not only was I not connected with a lot of people here, but, it's a small firm. Nobody had heard of Picket Fence Financial. So this was just, you've got the Madoff thing going on and all of that. And so it was very difficult not having some brand recognition and also just not knowing a lot of people. So, it was really the first 2 years were probably the hardest for me. You set business goals and what you're going to do. And I get to the end of the year and I wasn't even close to what I got the first, it was really frustrating to get going. It's fortunate just kept with it. And, I think one thing that helped me a lot was not focusing really at all on the final goals. Like, revenue goals. I didn't focus on any of that. I said, all right, it was the 4 Disciplines of Execution was a book I read, and it said, focus on the activities that could lead to that. And that's really all you can do. So if you're doing the activities, you have to believe at some point you'll start to see the results. And that's pretty much what did it. Just changing that mindset to just focus on my activities, not worrying about the big numbers at the end. And it seemed like if every day I was checking my to-do box of what I needed to do, it started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So,
yeah, that's wonderful. To be able to do that sort of discipline of whatever the activity is that's going to grow your business. Don't look at the bottom line just yet when you're starting out. Just keep plugging away, and eventually over time it'll work out. Now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the flip side, sometimes business is an absolute dream and wonderful to the point we develop a passion for our business, or we might be ecstatic about something that happens or grateful for something that has developed maybe we didn't expect. What's an example or time when you had something wonderful happen, a sort of a high energy moment for you and your business?
Yeah, again, you have several of these, throughout your career. And in fact, when I talk to somebody who's just starting in business, I tell them, there's going to be moments where you feel like, you've got total control of the world, the world's your oyster. And then you've got moments where you feel like you've made the biggest mistake of your life and ruined the financial well-being for your family. And I said, a lot of times those two thoughts can come to, together within an hour of each other. I think where I really felt great one time is I was building things up and finally getting to the point. We had a staff meeting and I just looked around and then we had, 5 people. It's still a small firm, but I had 5 people. And I just took a second to think, I'm at the point where I'm helping 5 people build the careers and have a livelihood. And I think that's probably been the one moment where I was like, it really has kind of come to fruition. And I took a moment to step back from the day to day to look at really where we were and where I'd started from. And that kind of made me feel really good just to know that it could get to that point and, start to see it all come together and start to build out.
Yeah. Once you get to that point of maturity in your business where you're taking care of your people, it creates a sense of fulfillment, what I'm hearing you say. How true is that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it changes rather than just focused on me working, now you have to try to develop other people and bring them along. And it's a lot more it's challenging, but it's a different kind of challenge. And I guess the good thing is it shows that the business is growing. So that's the other beautiful thing about it.
Right. Well, a lot of businesses, as you've noticed today, have a challenge with keeping people on payroll. They're leaving and going somewhere else. How important it is to you to keep that culture within your own company where people don't leave?
Yeah, it's crucial, and I've had problems with that. I just recently had a planner. She came to me. She was in the medical field, but had an interest in finance, and basically, I've worked with her. She worked in the tax side of our business for a couple of years. Brought her on as a paraplanner, and then this year she finally kind of got the CFP, fully qualified, and she was going to, walk on her own. And I think with the markets doing what they were, and finally she didn't have kind of that safety net of me looking over everything she was doing. She just, the anxiety of it, advising people on their life savings, it was too much. But I put essentially 5 to 6 years of mentoring and growing and teaching, and out she went back to her old career in the medical field. So it's really hard. I think what you've got to try to do is show them a path forward, show them, where they could get to. And you have to continually tell them the grass isn't always greener on the other side either. Even if they were to leave for a higher paying job, which is a problem a lot of people have right now, it's not the same. You have to you've got to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at what's my final path. What could I do here growth wise as opposed to somewhere else? I mean, with a smaller firm, you can do a lot more than if you end up at a big place that's got a regiment and, bureaucracy. So you really have to show people the path forward. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, great. Good advice there, Kirk. So we get to the favorite part of my interview. The question is, if you could meet anybody, deceased or living, who would that be and why?
Yeah, for me, it would be Thomas Jefferson. And I think, I mentioned I was a history and government major at the academy. So I've always been enthralled with history. And without a doubt, I just think he's probably the biggest historical figure in my thinking. And certainly you could argue for the country as well. So, just so brilliant in so many different fields, and just amazing when you think of what he's accomplished. So that's somebody I would just love to, have dinner with him and sit down with him and really pick his brain. I think that would just be an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting pick there. And when you talk about his brilliance, obviously the diversity he had in terms of what he learned and what he was exposed to and what he had a curiosity for.
Yes.
And that truly makes one a sort of a Renaissance person, where they have that insatiable curiosity to learn more than just what they might be their profession or might be their talent. So that's a great one. Thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Well, Kirk, we've enjoyed very much having you on the show. Why don't you share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you and about your business?
Okay. Well, you can always go to picketfencefinancial.com if you want to view our website. But I do have a blog and podcast where I try to just put out educational information, and I call it savingyourselffromwallstreet.com. So again, our approach is always to try to help people escape Wall Street's commission-based practices. So what we do there is just try to give really good advice, basic money advice for folks to help them out. So those are probably the two best places to locate me.
Great. Well, I love the free service. It's always a good thing to help out people just in general. And so you're right, the commission-based structure can be pretty daunting, and having an alternative to that and having some good information about the finances and investments is a great thing to put out. So thanks for doing that. All right. Well, Kirk, thank you very much for being on the show today. I enjoyed talking with you very much and wish you the best.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks for listening to Energy of Business Moments with your host, Michael Sipe. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.